On Friday, December 6, 1991, at 11 p.m., an Austin police officer spotted smoke and fire coming from the "I can't believe it's Yoghurt" shop on West Anderson Lane. He radioed dispatch, and within minutes, firefighters arrived to extinguish what appeared to be a late-night fire. The discovery inside the burning building by first responders would shake the city of Austin and eventually the nation to its core. The flames had barely died down when firemen stumbled upon the charred and stacked bodies of 3 young girls. It took another 30 minutes before a fourth body, 13-year-old Amy Ayers, was found in a different section of the store. Amy had managed to crawl away from the other victims before succumbing to her wounds and the fire that engulfed the building. The other victims were 17-year-old Jennifer Harbison, 17-year-old Eliza Thomas, and Jennifer's 15-year-old sister Sarah. That evening, Eliza and Jennifer worked the closing shift. Sarah and Amy, simply keeping their older friends company, had no idea that their casual Friday night would be their last. The entire community would soon be plunged into mourning, and what followed was a decades-long search for answers in one of Texas's most horrific and perplexing murder cases. The firemen who first entered the yogurt shop were sworn to secrecy about the gruesome details of the scene. However, they eventually leaked the truth to the Austin American-Statesman. The scene they described was unimaginable. Autopsy reports later confirmed what investigators had seen. Sarah Harbison's body had been gagged and tied behind her back with a pair of panties. She had been raped and shot in the back of the head with a .22 caliber firearm, with the bullet lodged in her brain. Her body, like the others, was severely burned. Her older sister, Jennifer, was found similarly brutalized. While her body wasn't bound in the same way, her hands were behind her back, and she too had been shot execution-style in the back of the head with a .22 caliber bullet. The damage to her body from the fire was extensive. Eliza Thomas, the other teenage employee, had also been gagged, her hands tied behind her back, and she was also shot in the back of the head. The bullet removed from Eliza Thomas's skull matched those of the Harbison sisters. Her body was also burned beyond recognition. The youngest of the 4 victims, Amy, suffered the most unusual injuries. Her nude body was discovered away from the others, suggesting she had survived long enough to drag herself from the pile before collapsing elsewhere. A sock-like cloth was tied tightly around her neck with a knot at the back. Although her body wasn't as charred as the others, she had sustained second and early third-degree burns over nearly a third of her body. What was most horrific was that Amy had been shot twice. The first shot, from the same .200 caliber weapon that killed the others, failed to penetrate her skull. The second shot, from a different, unspecified caliber weapon, was far more destructive. It entered her head, destroyed brain tissue, and exited through her right cheek and jawline. This secondary weapon suggested the possibility of multiple perpetrators. The use of gasoline as an accelerant further indicated premeditation. The fire was so intense that it left behind evidence of an extremely high BTU output, supporting investigators' theory that the killers deliberately set the shop ablaze to destroy evidence and the girls. News of the murders swept across Austin like wildfire, and investigators were flooded with tips in the following weeks. However, the case remained unsolved for months. Then, in October 1992, nearly a year after the crime, hope seemed to rise when Mexican authorities arrested 2 men, Carlos Saavedra and Alberto Cortez. According to police in Mexico, Saavedra had confessed not only to the yogurt shop murders, but also to the rape of an Austin woman that had occurred the previous November. However, this confession would soon unravel under intense scrutiny. It was revealed that Saavedra's admission was not made voluntarily. He had been tortured during his interrogation until he gave them the answers they wanted. Under these circumstances, the confession was deemed unreliable. Saavedra recanted, insisting he knew nothing about the murders. With no physical evidence linking him or Cortez to the crime scene, both men were ultimately released, leaving the investigation back at square one. While Saavedra, Cortez were the primary suspects, authorities also considered another chilling possibility: the involvement of notorious Central Texas serial killer Kenneth Allen McDuff. McDuff, known for his brutal murders, particularly involving teenage victims, had a history of sadistic tendencies. He was one of the most feared killers in Texas history and eventually confessed to the yogurt shop murders while incarcerated. This confession sparked renewed interest in the case, but it too ultimately fell apart due to DNA evidence that ruled him out. McDuff had no forensic ties to the crime scene and was later executed by lethal injection in Texas on November 17, 1998, for his confirmed crimes. In 1999, nearly 8 years after the crime, Austin police arrested 4 local men: Robert Springsteen IV, Michael Scott, Maurice Pierce, and Forrest Wellborn. These weren't strangers. They were hometown boys who had even attended the same schools as the victims. Michael Scott confessed to the yogurt shop murders, claiming he had participated with the other 3 men. This shocking revelation shook the city, but it soon unraveled. In June 2000, a disturbing photo showed Austin homicide detective Robert Merrill holding a gun to Scott's head during interrogation. Merrill denied threatening Scott, claiming that the gun was simply in the proximity of his head. However, the public and legal experts concluded that Scott's confession was coerced. Despite the troubling circumstances, Scott and Springsteen were put on trial. Springsteen was convicted of capital murder and sentenced to death, while Scott was also convicted and sentenced to life in prison. Pierce and Wellborn never faced trial due to a lack of sufficient evidence. The saga was far from over. In 2006, the Texas Court of Criminal Appeals ruled that Scott and Springsteen had been denied their constitutional right to cross-examine each other during their trials, a violation of the Sixth Amendment. Their convictions were overturned. However, in 2008, a major forensic breakthrough changed everything. DNA testing revealed that the male genetic material collected from a vaginal swab of Amy Ayers did not match Springsteen, Scott, or the 2 other suspects. Instead, it belonged to an unidentified male. With this exculpatory evidence, the Travis County District Attorney dismissed all charges against the 4 men on October 28, 2009. Just like that, nearly a decade of supposed justice unraveled in a single day. The arrests, confessions, and convictions, they all fell apart under the weight of one simple truth: the wrong men had been behind bars. Today, the case remains officially unsolved. Several customers who visited the yogurt shop on the night of the murders reported seeing 2 unknown men sitting in a booth, drinking sodas and acting suspiciously. These men were never identified, and their DNA has never been matched. To this day, the Austin Police Department's cold case unit continues its pursuit of these unknown suspects, particularly focusing on the DNA profile found on Amy Ayers, the youngest victim. Investigators believe this profile holds the key to everything. With the advancement of forensic genealogy and national DNA databases, there is still hope that one day, the killer or killers will be identified. Till then, the case lingers like a ghost over the city. The physical yogurt shop at 2949 West Anderson Lane has changed over the years, from a dessert shop to a check-cashing store, and now a nail salon. A simple memorial stone marks the location, reminding those who remember or learn of the tragedy. Even 30 years later, people still leave flowers, letters, candles, and tokens of remembrance for the 4 innocent girls who were robbed of their lives and justice. The yogurt shop murders were a calculated, sadistic execution of 4 teenage girls whose only mistake was being in the wrong place at the wrong time. This case is a reminder of how fragile safety can be and how justice can remain painfully out of reach. If you want to dive deeper into cases like this, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you never miss a story. Until next time, stay curious and stay safe.